Hasn't Australia suffered enough? What have you done to deserve that?
And Meghan and Harry, it's just another cheap publicity stunt for them. What's new? What's new?
Something flipped, and it wasn't subtle at all. It hit loud, messy, and right out in the open where nobody could miss it.
Harry, it ain't gonna happen. Dream on, baby.
The same country that once rolled out the red carpet for Harry and Meghan is now acting like they barely want to deal with them.
So a spokesperson for the Duke and Duchess, we don't know who it is, but it will be someone that will be fired early tomorrow morning. And it'll be another member of the Sussex Survivors Squad. Here's what they said. They said the Sussexes will visit Australia in mid-April to take part in a number of private, business and philanthropic engagements. Who do these people think they are? What are those business engagements going to be? Given the fact that the world's biggest streaming giant has just fired Meghan Markle and has had nothing to do with Harry for years.
And people are seriously asking, what changed this fast?
I expect there'll be a very different level of public access to them this time. Would they be likely to be doing public events with meets and greets of members of the public, do you think, or will this all be very tightly controlled?
Australia used to show major love, real excitement, real support. But now the tone feels colder, sharper, almost tense.
It will be tightly controlled. I've seen, what I thought was interesting was the announcement included private events. Like wouldn't we just assume that they would want privacy throughout the excursion? But don't forget, or don't think for one second, they won't try to make it look like an official royal engagement. They will want certain photo opportunities where there's an audience clamoring for them so that they can send those pictures to People magazine. But for the most part, I do think that it will be mostly private events and commercial ventures that they're pursuing more so than charity opportunities.
The cheers didn't just fade, they dropped off hard. And the headlines? Way more critical than before. This isn't just media spin either. It's the public energy shifting, and you can feel it everywhere. Now it's starting to look like the whole vibe has flipped against them, and not in a quiet way either. What's wild is how fast it all happened. No slow build-up, no warning signs people could point to, just a sudden switch that caught everyone off guard. Critics are getting louder by the day, while supporters seem to be stepping back, staying quiet, or just not defending like they used to. The pressure is stacking up fast, and people are picking apart every move, every statement, every appearance. Folks are questioning choices, calling out behavior, and trying to figure out what's really happening behind closed doors. So what actually triggered all this? Why is Australia, of all places, pushing back this hard right now?
By up-and-coming reporters, people just starting out, people you don't know of. Jackie O! Jackie O, how did she qualify? The whole thing is such a farce.
It's so unserious. It is so unserious. And I used to have maybe a shred of respect for them. Now it's totally gone at this point. I can now see the truth of what Meghan's PR strategy is. Craven views, that publicity here and there. She doesn't care about independent journalists. She just doesn't. It's true. All she wants is a bit of a headline, and unfortunately, we keep giving them to her because she's easy. She's very easy to go after, but she makes it like that for herself, Andrew.
That's what has people locked in, watching closely, trying to connect the dots. And what does this mean for Harry and Meghan going forward? Because this situation isn't cooling off, it's heating up fast, and the tension keeps building. Then comes the part that really changes how you see everything. Australia used to be one of their biggest wins, no question. That's exactly why this backlash feels so intense right now. To really understand it, you've got to go back to 2018, when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle touched down for their first royal tour as a married couple. The istiqbal was huge, the crowds were packed, and the energy was electric. People showed up in full force, and for a moment, it felt like they could do no wrong. The streets in Sydney and Melbourne were completely packed, shoulder to shoulder, no space to move. People waited for hours just hoping to catch even a second of them walking by.
There shall be a crowd, and they shall be mobbed. It'll be like the Beatles in the 1960s. No, No one's interested. They could do a press release about where they're going to be and when, and it'll be a no-show.
Meghan's relaxed style and confident energy clicked instantly with Australians, especially in a place where anything fake gets spotted fast and shut down. She came across real, natural, and easy to connect with, and people loved that. And Harry? He looked like he was exactly where he belonged, grinning non-stop, loose, comfortable, and feeding off the crowd like it gave him energy. It felt effortless, like the whole moment just worked. Back then, royal insiders were calling the tour a serious power move, saying it proved the monarchy could actually evolve and stay relevant in a changing world. For a moment, Harry and Meghan looked like the future, fresh faces, new energy, something people hadn't seen before. There was real excitement around them, like they were about to reshape everything. But that glow didn't last. It faded way faster than anyone expected. After that tour, everything started to shift, and not in a small way. The couple stepped back from royal duties, left the UK, and settled in California. And from there, they kept rolling out big projects that kept them in the headlines non-stop. That interview with Oprah Winfrey had everyone talking. Then came a high-profile documentary series, and even a best-selling memoir that opened up details about life inside the palace. Each move pulled more attention, more reactions, and more debate.
They're among the least popular members of the royal family. I would say reception will be a combination of morbid curiosity with the side of, why are they here?
And not all of that attention was positive. All the hype from before, it was tied closely to their royal roles and official status. That connection carried weight, and people saw them as part of something bigger. But now the situation looks completely different. Harry and Meghan aren't working royals anymore, and they're not representing the crown in any official way. This time, they're stepping out as private figures, building a global brand, making strategic moves, and managing an image that's constantly under pressure and heavy scrutiny. The moment their visit got announced on March 8th, everything went wild almost instantly. There was no slow reaction building up. This thing exploded right out the gate. Within hours, a petition showed up online and started spreading fast, gaining attention at a crazy pace. People were reposting it everywhere across social media, and the message behind it wasn't confusing at all. It was direct, bold, and impossible to ignore.
They're coming to do a mock royal tour of Australia next month, Samara, where Meghan Markle's going to appeal to the bogan vote by going on a podcast with Jackie O. What is this visit all about?
Oh God, can they just stop with the pseudo-royal tours? I mean, they're like pound store royals at this point. You just can't sort of understand why they're doing this.
Supporters of the petition aren't dancing around the issue either. They're keeping it clear and straight to the point. They're saying Harry and Meghan stepped away from royal duties back in 2020 and have been running private ventures from the United States ever since. So if they decide to come to Australia now, it should be treated exactly for what it is, a private visit. Nothing more, nothing official. And that comes with conditions people feel strongly about. No official recognition, no government involvement, and most importantly, no public money supporting any part of the trip. That point is hitting hard right now. For a lot of Australians watching this unfold, the mindset has shifted in a big way. The old expectations tied to royal visits don't seem to apply anymore. And that automatic privilege people once assumed would be there, it looks like it's fading fast. So what are people actually demanding in this petition?
That they're doing this all wrong. I mean, they're very lucky that they got out of Jordan just days before the Middle East erupted. But you can see that they're not privy to any of the sort of stringent protocols that go with being a royal, going on a royal tour. I think it's totally disrespectful to the royal family, especially with all they're going through at the moment.
It's simple, but it's firm and not up for debate. If Harry and Meghan come to Australia, it must be treated strictly as a private visit, no exceptions, no special treatment, no official welcome events, and absolutely no taxpayer money involved at any level. And the tone of this petition? It's not soft or polite. It's sharp, direct, and very intentional. Especially right now, when many Australians are dealing with rising living costs and financial pressure. Supporters are making it clear that public resources need to be handled carefully and responsibly. That means no government coordination, no publicly funded security, and none of the arrangements typically reserved for active working members of the royal family. But here's where things really turn up.
I mean, the couple's, I'm thinking thoughts and prayers. The couple's popularity in Australia in 2018 was the catalyst for Harry and Meghan making demands as working members of the royal family. I don't know if you know that. In trying to step out of William and Catherine's shadow, Meghan started comparing herself to Princess Diana and tried to use this trip as leverage with the late Queen. As of late 2025, Harry and Meghan's popularity in Australia is at an all-time low.
Because the comments people are leaving while signing that petition are intense. Some of them are straight to the point. No filter, no hesitation at all. One person wrote, "These two have been handed more money than most people will see in a lifetime. They can absolutely pay their own way." That kind of statement hits hard, and it's not the only one. Another comment pushed even further, calling their visits cosplay tours, saying it feels like they're putting on a performance, copying royal duties without actually holding a real public role. That word cosplay lands heavy, and it carries a sharp edge. It shows exactly how some critics are seeing this situation now. For a lot of people paying attention, the difference between an official royal tour and what looks more like a celebrity-style appearance is becoming impossible to ignore. And once that line starts to blur, people begin asking bigger questions, and fast.
It is a total farce. You can see, I love that, the Bogan vote. I mean, you can't get more sort of out of touch or out of tune with how Australia is than to think, oh, I'm going to stand up for women's rights and talk about my, my plight and my fight for freedom with Jackie O.
And here's the thing, once a public perception like that locks in, it's extremely hard to shake. It sticks, it spreads, and it shapes how every future move gets judged. But it doesn't stop there, because the pushback isn't just coming from one side, it's coming from multiple directions at the same time, which makes this even more serious. According to royal commentator Tom Sykes, writing in his Substack newsletter, The Royalist, the criticism is coming from both monarchists and Republicans. That's a rare moment right there, because those two groups usually don't agree on much at all. So the fact they're both raising concerns at the same time says a lot about how big this situation is getting. For Republicans, this visit is opening the door to a much bigger conversation. They're questioning why a royal institution, based thousands of miles away, should still play any role in modern Australian life, especially now that Harry and Meghan are widely viewed as global celebrities, running private ventures, building personal brands, and moving in a completely different lane than traditional working royals.
And there's no way that any self-respecting entrepreneur is going to throw a few Australian dollars in their direction. The other thing about the Australians that I know intimately well is they don't like grifters. They don't like fakes. They don't like phonies. If you go to Australia, you don't have to be perfect, but you've got to be.
But on the other side of this, monarchists aren't happy either, and their frustration is coming from a completely different place. Strong supporters of the Crown are making it clear they no longer see Harry and Meghan as true representatives of the monarchy at all. Instead, they view them as figures who openly criticize the institution while still benefiting from the global spotlight that comes with royal titles. And that contradiction is not sitting well. So now you've got two totally different sides with completely different beliefs, both pushing back at the exact same time. And that kind of overlap is rare. It almost never happens. That's what's making this moment feel louder, bigger, and way harder to ignore. The idea of the Sussexes arriving in Australia and receiving anything close to an official-style welcome, that's where things start to feel like a direct clash with Queen Elizabeth II's well-known stance. You are either in or you are out. No in-between, no half rolls, no blurred lines.
And of course, they're so worried about their security. Are they going to have armed cops in Australia? Well, the good people of Australia will not be expected to cough up money for the protection of these royal spoiled brats. Why should they? The Australians have no skin in that game. And we know that Harry's battling the Home Office in the UK for armed royal protection.
And people are bringing that rule up again with serious intensity. And that's exactly why this situation is raising eyebrows everywhere. The timing only adds more pressure to it. Harry and Meghan are expected to arrive in April, but months before that, something major was already happening behind palace doors. Back in September, Australia's Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, met with King Charles III and publicly invited the Prince and Princess of Wales to visit the country. For a while, there were quiet discussions suggesting Prince William and Princess Catherine might tour Australia sometime this year. It wasn't confirmed, but it was definitely in motion. Now, though, those plans are looking uncertain, maybe delayed, maybe not happening anytime soon. And that shift is creating a pretty striking situation that people are starting to notice. Because here's where it gets complicated. The couple who stepped away from royal duties, who are no longer working royals, could end up being the first high-profile figures connected to the monarchy to show up in Australia during this period. That contrast is hard to ignore, and it's raising a lot of questions about optics, timing, and public reaction.
In a way, it's confected. It's because they're irrelevant. They're falling off the news cycle. Meghan isn't selling any jam. You know, it was the Queen's dying wish. She did say in that statement when they Mexited that she didn't want them to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out royals. Now, over here, we're calling them kind of gig economy royals because it seems like they're just picking up jobs here and there, wherever they want to do them. They never wanted to do the full-time work. I think Meghan found it way too hard.
Again, Harry and Meghan could soon be on the ground in one of the Crown's most important Commonwealth nations, meeting veterans, appearing at events, and dominating headlines everywhere they go. And with all this tension already building before they even arrive, every single move they make is likely to be watched, analyzed, and reacted to in real time. Meanwhile, the future king and queen are sitting thousands of miles away, and that contrast is what's really making people stop and look twice. According to palace insiders, this situation is already stirring up some uncomfortable conversations behind closed doors, and the tension around it is only getting stronger by the day, because every headline about Harry and Meghan's visit sparks the same question again, and it's getting louder each time. Why haven't other senior members of the royal family been visiting Australia more often? That question is now echoing across the Commonwealth, and it's putting the monarchy under a spotlight that's getting hotter fast. Harry and Meghan's return isn't just another visit, it's creating quiet pressure behind the scenes, and people are starting to pick up on the shift in energy. For years, Prince William and Princess Catherine have been presented as the calm, steady future of the monarchy. Everything about them feels controlled, carefully planned, and consistent, every appearance measured, every move calculated. But now the Sussexes are stepping back into the global spotlight in a major way, and they're pulling huge media attention with them. Headlines are following them everywhere again, and it's happening on a level that's hard to overlook. And Australia? This isn't just another stop on a map, it's a major stage with deep history tied to it. Their 2018 tour helped build Meghan's strong connection with the public and created a wave of excitement that spread fast. But behind palace doors, that same popularity reportedly caused tension within royal circles and added pressure to an already complicated dynamic. Now they're coming back, but everything about this return feels different. No official roles, no working royal status, no formal responsibilities, just private figures stepping into a global spotlight that's more intense than ever. They've got major projects, worldwide attention, and reputations they need to protect at all costs. And that shift right there is exactly why this return is pulling so much attention right now. Because the Australia they're coming back to, it doesn't feel like the same place that welcomed them before, and that difference is impossible to ignore. Not even close. It's a completely different situation now. Australia is dealing with rising economic pressure, ongoing debates about becoming a republic, and all the lingering questions that still follow Harry and Meghan's story wherever they go. That means every handshake, every appearance, every single public moment is going to be watched closely and judged way more critically than before.
Harry and Meghan plan to rebound from this latest flop with another tour of Australia. A spokesperson for the couple telling news.com.au the couple will be visiting in mid-April. Kinsey, their last tour here was back in 2018, 18 months before they quit their royal duties and relocated to the US.
The same country that once welcomed them with huge excitement is now asking sharper, tougher questions about their role, their purpose, and what they actually represent today. That shift in attitude is impossible to miss, and it's changing the entire tone of this visit. Australia could soon be watching a couple who are both celebrated and heavily scrutinized at the same time. And that contrast is intense. They're global figures balancing fame and influence, while the weight of royal politics continues to follow them everywhere they step. This isn't just another visit anymore. It's turning into a real test with real pressure behind it. Public opinion, royal influence, and global perception are all colliding at once, and the pressure is building fast. Some are already calling it a royal storm, and you can feel that tension rising with every new headline. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex are heading back, but the mood surrounding their arrival is far from a simple celebration. It's charged, divided, and full of anticipation. For many Australians, this moment represents something much bigger than just a visit. It reflects a monarchy facing growing scrutiny, where long-standing tradition is clashing with modern expectations in a very public way. And at the center of it all is a well-known family being viewed through a completely different lens than ever before. Then there's the practical side of all this, and it's not small. Security, crowd control, logistics, none of it comes cheap, especially when high-profile figures are involved. In most cases, these responsibilities fall on state and territory police forces, who have to balance protecting well-known visitors while also maintaining public order. And that's exactly where things start to get complicated fast. Because now, the symbolic message behind that petition is running straight into real-world logistics, and the gap between the two is getting harder to ignore. Thousands of signatures are demanding zero public spending, but the reality isn't that simple. Large public appearances almost always require some level of government coordination, whether people like it or not. And that gray area right there, that's exactly where the real tension is building fast. Every single move Harry and Meghan make could turn into a careful balancing act, with pressure coming from every direction at once. So what happens when they actually arrive? Will the cheers from supporters overpower the criticism, or will protests start getting louder as the visit goes on? Those questions are already hanging heavy in the air, and right now, nobody has a clear answer. It's unpredictable, and that uncertainty is adding even more intensity to the situation. History shows that major shifts don't always start inside government buildings. They often begin with public movements that start small and grow louder over time. And that's exactly what this is starting to look like. What began as a simple online petition is quickly turning into a nationwide conversation that's getting harder and harder to ignore with each passing day. Australia is now turning into a testing ground for what some are calling the Sussex model, a new reality where globally recognized figures with royal titles step into public spaces that may not automatically celebrate them the way they once did. That shift alone is raising eyebrows and sparking debate across the country.
So it's quite extraordinary. It's going to have the opposite effect. If Harry thinks that this will be a game changer, the game will be changed and it will work against him, because Harry is going to once again infuriate not just his father, King Charles, but of course the real power behind the throne, William, who is the equivalent of the president-elect. He is the heir to the throne. He's the king in waiting, and he won't take any of this nonsense from Harry when he becomes the main man.
And this petition? It's no longer just a quiet complaint sitting online. It's growing into a full-scale political story that's pulling serious attention from all sides. Major media outlets across Australia are already covering it non-stop, and now international publications are jumping in too. The story is spreading fast, and it's dragging some very uncomfortable questions straight into the spotlight. Questions that Harry and Meghan, and even the palace, might not want to answer directly. What role do they actually have today? What connection do they still hold to royal authority, public support, and long-standing Commonwealth traditions? Those questions aren't fading. They're getting louder by the day, and the pressure keeps building. When the Sussexes step off that plane in April, they won't just be arriving, they'll be walking straight into a situation that's already heated, heavily debated, and impossible to ignore. They'll be stepping into a country that feels split right down the middle on how to see them, and that divide is impossible to ignore. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has tried to keep things neutral, carefully describing the visit as a private matter. But let's be real. That kind of stance isn't going to slow down the wave of media attention that's already building fast. The petitions, the debates, the constant scrutiny, it's all getting louder, sharper, and way more intense. Every move will be watched closely, every smile picked apart, every headline analyzed from every possible angle. The The same country that once gave them one of their biggest royal highs is now turning into a high-pressure stage where public opinion could shift at any second. And behind the scenes, officials in Canberra are dealing with their own complicated balancing act. If they show too much support, they risk upsetting the thousands of people who signed that petition, and that backlash could come fast. But if they pull back too much, it could create awkward tension with the king's son, and that's not a small issue either. That's the tightrope everyone is watching right now, and there's no easy move that keeps everyone satisfied. Prince Harry may be living as a global celebrity today, but he's still royal by blood, and that fact keeps every step he takes under intense public attention no matter where he goes. That connection doesn't just disappear, and people aren't ignoring it. At the same time, political commentators and opposition voices are jumping into this conversation quickly, adding even more heat to the situation. Some are arguing that what's happening right now is exposing deeper issues within the monarchy itself, and those claims are starting to spread. Critics are saying the Sussexes have reshaped the royal narrative in a big way, holding on to their titles while building personal brands, business ventures, and global platforms. In their view, this isn't just about one visit, it's pointing to cracks in an institution that once depended on tradition, structure, and a level of respect that was rarely questioned. And that right there is why this moment feels way bigger than it first appears. The modern world doesn't automatically hand out respect just because of a royal title anymore. Those days are fading fast. Now, every expense gets questioned, every public appearance gets analyzed, and every event is put under a microscope. Petitions, social media pressure, and public reaction have become powerful forces, and they're impossible to ignore.
So when Harry and Meghan step onto Australian soil this time, it won't just be about ceremony, photos, or headlines. It's going to carry real weight. With eyes locked in from every direction and opinions ready to shift at any moment, the pressure is already sky high. Meanwhile, Prince William and Princess Catherine have stayed completely silent, exactly in line with royal protocol. But silence doesn't mean they're unaware of what's happening. Behind palace walls, every headline, every debate, and every sign of public frustration is being watched very closely. Some palace observers even believe there's a quiet, long-term strategy playing out here, one that lets Harry and Meghan face the public reaction on their own. That way, the bigger conversation about royal responsibility, public funding, and accountability unfolds without dragging the future king and queen directly into the storm. Then later, William and Catherine can step forward as the calm, steady alternative. The royals who stick to tradition represent stability and stay far away from controversy. And that contrast, it could end up speaking louder than anything else. Right at the center of all this is King Charles III. And for him, this isn't just public pressure, it's deeply personal. Prince Harry isn't just a headline or a topic for debate, he's his younger son, and that reality makes everything more complicated. On one side, there's family loyalty pulling one way, and you can feel how heavy that tension really is. On the other side of it all is something even bigger, the long-term survival and credibility of the monarchy itself. And right now, in Australia, that balancing act is playing out on a global stage for everyone to watch in real time. It's forcing some seriously uncomfortable questions about duty, loyalty, and the future of the royal institution. Questions no rulebook could have fully prepared them to handle in public. King Charles is keeping things neutral on the surface, sticking firmly to protocol and avoiding comments about non-working members of the royal family. But behind closed doors, the situation is far more complicated than it looks. Because the reality is, many of Harry and Meghan's projects still pull massive global attention, and a big part of that attention comes from their connection to the royal family name, whether people admit it or not. Every interview, every appearance, every headline, it all keeps that royal link alive and in the spotlight. And now, the growing petition in Australia is showing just how controversial that connection has become. The timing couldn't be more complicated for King Charles either, and that only adds more pressure to an already tense situation. He's already dealing with his own health challenges while trying to shape a reign that stands apart from Queen Elizabeth II's long legacy. At the same time, a new wave of controversy is building in one of the Crown's most important Commonwealth nations, and it directly involves his own son, which makes it even more sensitive.
Yikes! Harry's desperate move, a cynical new low for the prince as he plots yet another fake royal trip overseas in a last shameless attempt to win over King Charles and make himself a frontline serving royal once again.
Now, everything is colliding at once. Questions about public funding, royal relevance, and family loyalty are all hitting at the same time, and none of it is simple to navigate. Royal watchers are starting to notice a bigger pattern forming too, and it's not staying contained to just one country. From Canada to the United States, from the UK to Australia, major appearances by Harry and Meghan often bring intense public scrutiny right behind them. And now, Australia is becoming the latest testing ground for how all of this unfolds under pressure, with the whole world watching closely. If this petition actually pushes authorities to make Harry and Meghan fully cover their own costs, it could set a serious precedent, one that other Commonwealth countries might start following fast. That kind of shift wouldn't stay local for long. It could ripple outward and change expectations everywhere. For Meghan, this situation hits on a much more personal level too. That 2018 Australian tour once felt like a major breakthrough, a moment that seemed to prove she had found her place within the royal family and built a real connection with the public. The energy, the support, it all pointed to something positive at the time. But coming back now, it's a completely different atmosphere. Instead of excitement, there's sharp criticism, intense reactions, and a level of scrutiny that feels impossible to ignore. That contrast alone is striking. And for Harry, the pressure is building just as fast. This isn't just a handful of online comments. It's grown into a full national debate that's getting louder every single day. Australia was once seen as a major win for the couple, the place where Prince Harry felt Meghan was truly being embraced, not just by crowds, but by the institution itself, and that meant something at the time. He's spoken before about how powerful that experience was and how important it felt for their future within the royal story. But coming back now and seeing people question their purpose, their motives, and their role, that creates a sharp and very public contrast with that earlier moment, and it's impossible to overlook. And a lot of observers are saying the public mood has clearly shifted since that once celebrated tour, and the difference is hard to miss. The couple's choices since then, big interviews, a revealing memoir, and a headline-grabbing documentary series have kept them constantly in the spotlight non-stop. Their post-royal path depends heavily on public attention, global interest, and staying in the headlines at all times. But attention doesn't always stay positive, and when it flips, it can flip fast. The same spotlight that once lifted them up can quickly turn into intense criticism, and that shift can hit hard. Major deals with companies like Netflix and Spotify, high-profile speaking events, and even their philanthropic work through the Archwell Foundation, all of it depends on how the public sees them at any given moment.
The entire Sussex brand is built on visibility, reputation, and global reaction, and that's a powerful setup, but also a risky one. Because when public opinion starts sliding in a negative direction, the impact doesn't stay small. It spreads quickly and hits harder than expected. Sponsors can start hesitating, business partners begin asking tougher and more direct questions, and that carefully built image around the Sussex brand can start showing real cracks under pressure. And once those cracks appear, they're not easy to cover up. That's exactly why this Australian petition goes far beyond politics or security costs. It's turning into something much bigger and way more serious. This is becoming a real-time test of the global brand Harry and Meghan have built around fame, influence, and constant public attention. And the outcome could shape what comes next in a major way. And this is where everything starts to reach a breaking point, because what happens next could define how they're seen going forward. The moment they land, it won't just be another appearance. It'll feel like a live test playing out in front of the world. Every reaction,
every crowd response, every headline will add fuel to an already intense situation. If the welcome turns out divided, or worse, openly critical, it could reinforce everything critics have been saying. But if support shows up strong and visible, that could shift the narrative all over again just as quickly. That's how unpredictable this moment really is. It can swing either way, and fast. What makes this even more serious is how public and permanent everything has become. Social media clips, viral moments, crowd reactions, none of it disappears. One awkward moment, one controversial headline, and it spreads globally within minutes. That kind of pressure doesn't just fade, it sticks. At the same time, expectations are completely unclear now. Are they being viewed as private visitors, public figures, or something in between? That confusion alone is adding to the tension, because people don't agree on what role they should even be playing anymore. And that uncertainty, it's exactly what makes this visit so unpredictable and so high stakes. Because in the end, this isn't just about Australia, it's about perception on a global scale. The way this plays out could influence how other countries respond to them in the future, how audiences react, and how their public image continues to evolve. One visit, one moment, but the impact, it could stretch way beyond anything anyone expected. If they manage to ride this wave, flip the narrative, and win back public support, even with all the criticism coming at them, it could prove their influence is still strong. It would show they can handle serious pressure, face intense scrutiny, and still come out standing tall on the other side. But let's be real, the roles in this situation are already set. They've become the center of attention, the lightning rod, the ones everyone is watching closely with every single move. As this continues to unfold, whether the visit turns into a smooth success or a headline-filled storm, one thing is locked in. The conversation has already changed, and there's no going back. Now, with mid-April getting closer, the tension is rising fast and the pressure is building. Will crowds show up in support, or will critics get even louder? Will protests dominate the headlines, or will things settle once they finally arrive? That's the big question, and right now, it could go either way. What do you think? Has public opinion really shifted, or is this whole situation being blown way out of proportion? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think about all of this. And if you want more updates like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video so you don't miss what happens next.